Welcome to ELF Snow Tracks and Traces. This is our third unit of the year, following the theme Designs in Nature. Hi there. So I think it's very important. I hope everyone watches the intro and conclusion video because it has lots of information about the whole entire session of ELF with this unit. Some things that I want to cover before we start is a little bit of outline, which you should be able to print from the PTA website. It suggests that your class day is a 15-minute setup. It would be handy if the teachers would take the kids out of the classroom so you can get set up. Then you have a 15-minute introduction, which we'll go through in depth here. Then there's a 4-center rotation between 15 and 20 minutes each, depending on your day. A 15-minute conclusion, and finally, clean up and put away materials. This is what I really want to talk about. The ELF materials have been put away in such disrepair that we can't even sort it out at the end of the session. So we need you to put things back in the envelopes. We need you to put things back in their boxes and bins appropriately. We've lost some materials and we've lost some library books. So please put the materials back as you found them. Then there's some other things to talk about. Oh, with this group, there's a couple bring-ins for this unit of ELF. For the introduction, there will be bring-in collected snow if there is any, because you're going to show how snow melts and the quantity of water left behind. Center 1, snowflake designs. We have templates for snowflakes, but they're kind of sophisticated. So we need the parents and the volunteers to pre-fold all the snowflakes so that when you get in there, you have time for the kids to cut them out. And you might want to just give them a couple choices. You don't need to give them a bunch of choices for cutting out the patterns of snowflakes. Center 2, you need to bring in Play-Doh. You can home make it or you can buy it. But if that's your center, we're going to have you eat that cost if you don't mind, because ELF is on a tight budget just like everything else in our school systems these days. So there's a recipe for homemade Play-Doh on the ELF PTA website, which is mitchellpta.org. And if you go to programs and events, slide down to ELF, you'll see recipes in there. Center 3. This is kind of a center. We'll cover that in depth, of course, in the special center, but the volunteer will need to peel crayons, so that's a heads up there. Center 4, there's nothing to really bring in, except you have to make sure you get the ELF window shade off the shelves. It's a big, hang on. Stay right there. Hi, it's this big window shade, so this won't fit in our bins, but you'll need this for center, whatever I just said, center 4. And center 5 is our outdoor center, so you don't really need to bring anything in, but we want you to strongly consider, even on a cold, snowy day, to get those kids outside and let them go out looking for snow and tracks. Even if it's not snowy on the ground, you can look for tracks and other traces of animals by having them be aware of what's around them. So that brings me to the ELF Open House. Is going to be this Friday and this Monday from 8:15 to 8:45. It's a 30-minute window, and it's time for you to go through all the bins and all the materials and get comfortable with things, ask questions, and get ready for a super duper ELF session. That will be down in the downstairs atrium. If you want to, you could also shadow a ELF class that's running, and that would be available. You can find the schedule online, and you can go tag along and see what's going on in ELF in some particular classroom. We would also welcome you to make an appointment. If you don't have time to fit any of those windows, Emmy or I would be happy to meet you and go through our materials. So that's kind of our overview. Then I'm going to go into more detail about our specific introduction and conclusion. These units kind of go together because snow is a way that kids can find tracks and traces of animals. That's how we kind of get these to go together. They're loosely related, but they still go together. And our snow focus is going to be how water takes many forms and how we can study snowflakes and how they're formed, as well as their shapes. And the kids will probably find that fascinating. So I'll go through our bin here. Just like all of our bins for ELF, we have that particular page on the lid. So all the stuff I'm blabbing about is right here on the lid, and it's available on the PTA website for you to print out. Here's the conclusion. We'll start with the introduction. I just briefly covered this stuff. Here's some questions you can ask the kids. And then we're going to go through these 3 things: snowflake sideshow, snow melt demonstration, and puppet show. We always have a puppet show, and this one's called Tracks and Traces. The different puppets parts are highlighted here. For older grades 3rd and 4th, we have the puppet show available online. You could print it out and go have the kids practice. This puppet show briefly covers tracks and traces, and it talks about this little boy, Henry, and he's complaining to his mom because he can't find his dog. So his mom is saying, "Where did your dog go? Go find him." And along the way, Henry encounters 4 different animals with the 4 different styles of walking. So here's our 4 animals. They're labeled on the back: porcupine, mink, mouse, and dog. And then we have the corresponding tracks that go with these animals to show the kids a different style of walking. So dog tracks are kind of all in a line. Mink tracks are side by side. Porcupines are kind of waddlers. And mouse tracks are all kind of hoppers. I think they call them bounders. That is all listed on the second page of the puppet show. Gives us a little bit about them. So that's a great overview for the kids to see what we're talking about with tracks and traces, and get them to be more aware of their surroundings and how to track an animal, what kind of animal they're tracking. The other things we have in the introduction are 2 slideshows with scripts. So there are scripts in here. One is for snow and one is for tracks and traces. You could use these for the introduction or the conclusion. The thing to note about these is you have to set up the computer ahead of time and pause upon starting up the CDs so that you don't skip the first slide. So these will buy each in individual envelopes. Watch me demonstrate. We have an envelope clearly labeled. Put this in there. I'm sorry for my sarcasm, but we're pretty frustrated with the way the materials are coming back. So anyway, so those will go back in the bin. The scripts and the shows. So now we're going to kind of skip to the conclusion, which is on the back. And we always say you could share a sharing circle. We could read a story. Snowflake fantasy, which I'm going to cover in a minute. You could use one of the slideshows. And the kids always love a snack. We have some great recipes on the website, the PTA website, specific to this center. The Snowflake Fantasy, for a conclusion, is a little thing you read. It's laminated. You have all the kids sit in a circle, and then they're standing up, I believe. They stand up and they physically go through what it's like to be a snowflake falling from the sky and onto the earth. And at the end, you ask them, where do you want to land and why? What do you want to become after you hit the ground? And what happens to snowflakes? So it's really cool because they start out as a tiny speck of dust, and then they rise higher and higher and light as a feather, and then they get in a cloud. And so you can have them, use their bodies to kind of express what they're hearing with the Snowflake Fantasy. That will cover it for the intro and conclusion today. Thank you for your time and attention, and good luck with this session of ELF. If you have any questions or comments, or need to schedule an appointment for the demonstration of materials, please don't hesitate to email us at mitchellelf@gmail.com. Thank you.